Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Têkkel Talk Show live. Alberic, good evening.
Goeienaand, Annie. Hoe gaan het jou kant? Hoe gaat het jou kant?
Nee, lekker. We're actually making history again. I think it's the first time this Thursday, in 3 Thursdays in a row, we don't have any rain, a few sunshine, and obviously not as cold for us in studio. So, it's nice to be back, and I'm pretty sure that you also enjoyed the nice weather after the downpour.
No, for sure. It's been fantastic to get the rain we need. We all need it. So, we can't complain. And I'm sure our guests won't mind the rain as well for the season ahead. But, guys, look, we just like to be here. There's a lot going on in our country, guys, at the moment. And, we just want everybody to stay safe. There's a lot going on at the moment. And we just want everybody to be safely at home and looking after each other. Just sending some positive vibes out there to everybody.
No, and that is what we are all about. We didn't think for one moment when we started the show, I think a little bit more than a year ago, that we would be in this format online, speaking to one another, speaking to various guests from in different towns under lockdown for so long. But here we are. But we are here to spread some positive news. And tonight, obviously, we have an interesting guest. Once again, we're going to chat to her in just a few minutes. But also thanks to everybody for participating in our entrepreneurial show last week. Really surpassed our expectations. Smokehounds, of course, was lekker. En allemaal wat ingetuned het. Ja, ek het het regtig enjoy. Smokehounds, die competitie natuurlijk wat ons gehad het. En guys, die ouens se kos top klas. Ons gaan nog weer saam met hulle gesels en ons gaan weer meer wys wat hulle doen. Maar daar is 'n giveaway, dit is nog op ons social media feeds waar jy kan gaan loer en daai natuurlik 'n smokehound voucher. Dan natuurlik daai ook hy fantastiese kompetisie van Grace waar jy 3 T-shirts kan wen en daai kompetisie wat dan sluit die 2 Augustus 2021. Gaan check dit uit op ons Facebookblad. Is wonderlik om weer eens jy weet die klein besighede te feature, so ons hoop regtig waar dat julle sal deelneem aan daai kompetisie. Now, Berk, I'm pretty sure that the people actually wanted to see some of the results. We're not going to ponder a lot about results because we also want to, before we get into the guests, we just want to obviously show some Tekkel mail. But there's some of the results. Again, the British and Irish Lions Tour. My arme Sharkies. Yo.
Arme vissies. The vissies van Durban. Yeah, jammer dat they look good for quite a big part of the game, and it's a pity that because of the red card they fell away. But they look good for like probably 60 minutes of the game. And then the Lions, the SAA team against the Lions played some brilliant rugby, I think. Not showing too much, and I'm comfortable with what we did. A score like that, I think, is better not to show your cards and not to show your hand. First. And I think it probably goes for both sides.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, especially with the SAA British and Irish Lions game, moet ek my woorde sluk, nee, Berk offline het ek gesê, SA span wat basis 'n Springbok span is, gaan geroes wees. They will not be up to face the British and Irish Lions. And physically they were there. They actually dominated the British and Irish Lions physically. A few strange decisions by the Lions, on attack. Obviously, part of your point is they didn't want to show too much. But again, I think it was a very good first outing for the SAA team. I'm not going to say the British and Irish Lions would worry too much about the result. I know that they will probably have a vastly different team this weekend, but obviously a good result for Ninaber, for Rassi and his coaching staff.
I agree, and just one point. I mean, we're guys that will harbor on the fact that referees blow. They always try to be unbiased, but sometimes you just feel that our SA refs in games like this tends to almost show the neutrality through their decisions, man. They don't want to show that they're picking any sides. And 2 yellow cards quickly after each other. It was a bit strange from my point of view. But yeah, again, good win for the SAA team, and let's hope it bodes well for the rest of the series.
No, for sure. Guys, there you have also the weekend fixtures. We know that Alberic's beloved Stormers will play in the last warm-up game, hulle sal vir die British en Irish Lions 'n bietjie meer oefening gee, en dan is dit natuurlik toetstyd, so daai Alberg, lekker wedstryd vir jou om uit te sien. Ek sien ook uit om te sien hoe die jong manne van die Stormers 'n bietjie teen die Britse Lions hulle staal wys.
Ja nee, ons geen nie 70 punte maklik weg. Hier gaan jy beklei in op Kaapstad se stadium. Maar yeah, look, it's going to be fantastic to see those two teams, at each other. And again, the Stormers is probably, I think they're the last team to face, if I'm not mistaken, the Lions before the Test series. So they would probably want to show that we're saving the best for last from a franchise point of view.
Nee, verseker. En dan natuurlik net laastens vergooi ons net 'n oogie daar oor die internasionale wedstryde wat kan plaasvind hierdie naweek. Tonga teen Samoa, New Zealand wat weer eens teen die fisiese Fijiane te staan kom. Australië teen Frankryk. It's been a few close contests between these two, and we're really looking forward to that fixture. And then Argentina against Wales would obviously also entertain us. And there you have our rugby fixtures for this weekend, and I'm pretty sure you will all be tuned in to give your comments on next week's show in terms of the result. Ons het nou net woord gekry, ons gas sukkel net 'n bietjie daar met haar klank. Ek hoop sy het uitgesorteer al. Maar voor ons daarby kom, Alberg, ons hoop sy kan dit uitsorteer net voordat ons vir haar opkry. Ons het 'n baie interessante e-pos gehad. Een van ons gereelde kykers, one of our regular Tekkel viewers, will be the virtual mascot for the match between the SAA team and the Bulls. Daar is meneer Verloutron. Verlou natuurlik een van ons gereelde kykers. Hy natuurlik ook 'n vernoot in die besigheid Grace wat hy 3 fantastiese T-hemde uitgee, en deur die Petro Jackson Fonds en deur verskillende rolspelers, omdat die spanne nie hierdie keer as gevolg van COVID mascots gaan het, fisies nie, het hulle virtual mascots, en Furlow sal die virtual mascot wees vir die SAA span, wanneer hulle veld vat in die laaste opwarming. Is eintlik die Springbokke wat speel, ja, Alberg, is nie die SAA span nie, is die Springbokke wat speel teen die Bulls, hè. Hulle speel in 'n oefenwedstryd, en daar's Furlow, he will be the virtual mascot. Furlow, if you're online, drop us a message, we're super proud of you. Dat's iets om uit te sien hierdie naweek. Ek wil graag sien hoe jy natuurlik daar vir see-polisie en sy troepe op die veld lei teen die Bulls. Wat 'n wonderlike geleentheid. Ons het al 'n dametjie gehad wat 'n mascot gewees het, Alberg, vir die Hollandse sokkerspan. So ons het bekende kykers op hierdie Têkkel Talk Show, en Furlow, as jy aanlyn is, my maat, ek is seker jy is opgewonde en jy sien baie uit na daai geleentheid. Guys, Alberg, ek is seker ons kan die haas uit die hoed laat. Almal het natuurlik ons Facebook pages gesien, saam met wie ons vanaand gesels. A renowned winemaker with a rich history. A lady that obviously comes from the suburbs of Belhar and Kraaifontein, and she started her own business, but she's also here to tell us more about her foundation. A once in a lifetime opportunity. Let's welcome to the Têkkel Talk Show live, Carmen Stevens. Good evening, Carmen, and welcome to Têkkel Talk Show live. What an honor to speak to you.
Thank you, and thank you for the invite. Sounds very exciting.
Yeah, and obviously to speak to a winemaker during these times of lockdown, where all the liquor stores obviously are closed, I think it's much appropriate to obviously speak to a winemaker during these times. So welcome to the Têkkel Talk Show. Let's get straight into it. You come from Kraaifontein, Belhar area. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing and growing up in those communities.
Okay, so we lived in Kraaifontein up to, I think it was 97, giving away my age here. And my parents got divorced, and my mother was a factory worker, so the only thing that she could afford after the divorce was a flat. And the only flat that she could afford was in Chestnut Place, Belhar. Nice, well-known gangster area. So we stayed there until I finished my matric year, and from there I wanted to go and study winemaking, but was refused 3 times.
Wow.
Or twice. And on the third time, I actually said, listen, and if I look back now, I don't know where I got the guts from, because I'm not the tallest person. I'm really not the tallest person. And I basically, what happened was I applied for 91, was refused. I went to work in a factory in Elsis River for 6 months to pay for my studies, because I also knew my mother wouldn't have money. So I thought, okay, it's fine. They refused, so I can go and work, get the money. Quickly realized it's not going to pay that college fees. So during the week, I worked at the factory, and on Saturday nights, well, after work, and on Friday nights and Saturday mornings, I used to sell shoes on Cape Town Station. And that is how I paid for my studies when I eventually was accepted for the 93 year. After saying, if you don't take me now, I'm going to go to the newspapers. So, what I never knew before then was that any person of color, black, colored, Indian, was not allowed to study winemaking before 93. They actually selected people that could study winemaking. So going into that domain where you are surrounded by white farmer boys, that was quite challenging. We were only 5 girls. I was the only black student at the college. The other 4 was white girls. And we were constantly reminded that we were taking away a opportunity for a white farmer being at the college. So studied there during the 94 elections. It was crazy being at Elsenburg Agriculture College. Just remember the guys I studied with comes from Carmens and Uppington and Sturabura. So for them, I think I was as much as a challenge as they were for me. But unfortunately for them, my dad was a very strict person and still is a very strict person, and always used to say to us as children, you don't feel sorry for yourself, you just stand up for yourself and you look somebody in the eye and you tell them, this is what I want. So that's basically what I did. And my second year, it got to a point where it got really, really bad. And my mother at that point said to me, you pack your bags, because I had to stay at the college, in the hostel. And she said, you pack your bags or I'll pack it for you. Because the doctor said that far from a nervous breakdown, I saw racism at its best. And it just so happened that, again, I thought I'm just not going to pack up and leave and not have my say. So packed my bags. But first I went to go see the head of the college that was obviously based at the college, and told him what was happening. And I think the one thing that I've learned, sorry, this is my puppy. The one thing that I've learned was that, not everybody is against you, or not everybody sees the world the same. And that hour of sitting with him and explaining to him what has been happening to me over the year and 6 months changed my life. It dramatically. I mean, immediately everybody was called together. Everybody was told, if you do this again, you'll be expelled. And so that really, really made a huge change to my life. And then I qualified end of 95 as South Africa's first black winemaker.
What a story.
Wow.
What a story.
And that was going to be my next question. I mean, I'm sure, besides, the challenges that you would have faced in your role as a female, what challenges do you still, today onwards still face? I mean, for me personally, and I might be wrong, I don't know a lot of women winemakers. And is that still the case? Is there more women coming on board and doing becoming winemakers?
When I studied winemaking, we were only 10 students were allowed per year to qualify as a winemaker. Now, the University of Stellenbosch and Elsenburg puts out winemakers, and there's really not enough jobs for people. What is the positive or the nice silver lining to this is that obviously the industry needs more people of color. So they have to make provision for you. So if your dream is to be a winemaker, listen, I think there's a big myth when it comes to winemaking. Winemaking is seen as this glamorous, and it can be glamorous. But it's seen as this amazing job, and that, okay, let's get the best part out of the way. It can be glamorous. You travel the world. You taste the best wines in the world. You eat the best food, because wine and food obviously goes together. So you are exposed to really top-end stuff most of the time. But to get to that point, there's a lot of hard work involved. Winemaking is so labor-intensive.
Yeah.
Every vintage between January and end of April, I lose anything between 5 to 7 kg. It is a labor-intensive job. And if you are not willing to get your hands dirty, then this is not a job for you. Okay, so for me, the positive is that I am in the vineyards. So I'm dealing with growers, I'm dealing with the vineyards. I make the call what needs to be done, when it needs to be done. And if you work with the right people, you get the right results, but also you meet amazing salt of the earth people. And then getting that grapes into the cellar at the right time and deciding how it's going to be processed and how it will turn out, and having the right team is it's hard work, but it's fantastic. The rewards of being able to pick up a glass and say, this is what I made. And every winemaker puts his own identity into a glass of wine. And I promise you, most of the time, you as the winemaker can identify a wine in a lineup. It's your wine, it's your children, you made it. And it's a fantastic, it has this lifestyle thing to it as well. And if you think back, I grew up in Kraaifontein, lived in Chestnut Place, where there is probably only a few trees, where I am in this absolute beautiful nature now. My life is, if I tell people I lived in Belhar, that I sold shoes on Cape Town Station, and where I am now in my life, a lot of people say it can't be true. But the thing is, anybody can do it. If you have the right mindset, if you really, really want to change your destiny, it's really
like that.
Before we get to the accolades, you have a few very, very big accolades behind your name. Before we get to the accolades, you spoke about your studies, and then obviously I believe you need a good palate and a good nose, because what I know about winemaking is dangerous. Tell our viewers watching now, what are the other characteristics of an award-winning winemaker, apart of being qualified, having that sense of taste and what works with what? What other characteristics for you, in your opinion, makes a very good winemaker?
Okay, so I'm going to start by saying nobody is born a winemaker. I was told that when I studied, you cannot ever taste or make wine because you need to be born into this. You teach your palate how to taste. You teach your nose how to smell. So that part, anybody can do. What makes a great winemaker is attention to detail. Attention to detail in tasting not only your wines, tasting everybody else's wine, benchmarking yourself time and time again. So do you know what is out in the market, what it is that the consumer wants, and you need to be on trend with what's new in the industry. So hard work, attention to detail. You can teach your palate and your nose anything. And I think staying true to you is very important. If this is what you want to do, do it. And there's so much scope for people of color now. It is crazy. But the one thing they need to understand is that it comes at a price. You need to put in the hard work. It's not going to just fall in your lap. Go the right route. A few years ago, a lot of people or wine farms used to just take cellar hands or cellar workers and say, this is my winemaker. And when people interviewed these people, a lot of them could not really explain why they did certain things in a cellar. And then you look like a fool. You know, not them, you look like the fool. So I always maintain, if you want to be called a winemaker, go and study winemaking. Make sure that whatever people ask you, you can answer. Make sure that when somebody speak about terroir, that you know what they're referring to. If they speak about anthocyanins, that you know what they're referring to. And you only know by studying.
Barry, do you understand? We ons kan net gaan drywe pluk en attention to detail en goed bottel nie. See, as die uitwerkie so nie. But there you have it, you know. You need to be qualified and fully understand. Just before we step off, you touched on being a good winemaker, and we know you are a magnificent winemaker. Your record praat vir yourself. Vat ons gou deur jou, because ek kan nie eens van die goed connoisseur weet jy wat nie. Take us through some of your awards, please. Entrepreneurial awards, winemaking awards. Just speak to 2-3 of them. Want die lys is lank. Ons gaan dit post op ons Facebook. Praat gewoon die een wat jy gevoel het, I've arrived.
Okay, the one that I think that opened doors for me was in '98. Was the very first red wine I made by myself. Nobody wanted to touch it because it came from a black farm, or black people owned it. So they call it the black wine. And we got double gold at the Veritas Awards and International Lufthansa Award, and we got top 10 Pinotage. Everybody was like shocked. So that really opened doors for me. From there, we won a lot of, I left Estelle by then and I went to work for another company. And there we were group winemakers. So you never got the necessary acclaim for a wine. As a group, you got it. So I can't really talk about that, but I then went and was approached by an American couple to make their wines. And we got amazing awards. We got international decanter trophies, which is, you know, if you're playing on the international field and you win a trophy internationally on wine, you're making a pretty good wine. So that would probably the international decanter awards is probably one of my top awards. And then being winemaker of the year in California, winemaker of the year in UK, and winemaker of the decade in the UK 2 years later. That's for my wines, and I'm very proud of it because it takes a lot of work. I always say each and every wine carries everybody's fingerprint in that cellar because we work. I promise you, if we took in grapes, if you taste a bottle of my wine, 60% of what you taste went through these hands. I've touched it personally because we sort every berry that comes through that processing plant. Every berry. Look at it, touch it. Make sure that it is what you want. And then on a more of a business level, I got a nice entrepreneurs award through agriculture a few years ago that really set me up in terms of a cellar space. And because of that award, in 2019, I opened the very first Black-owned 100% wine cellar in South Africa. And from there, I think a lot has to do with luck. Please don't get me wrong. It's not just me being, this amazing businesswoman. I think maybe opponents wasn't that strong, or maybe you don't answer a question. They didn't answer a question perfectly, and maybe I just slipped in and said the right thing at the right time.
Yeah.
So I always say to people, if they say, I saw this award and I'm not sure, go for it. Go for it. It can open doors for you if you win it. Even if you get the third prize, it still means something behind your name. Especially in this atmosphere, in this where everybody's about entrepreneurs and do it. It's good for your CV. It's good for you when you have to apply for funding or, get your name out there. It's good.
Awesome.
There you have the long list, yeah, Barry. Long list.
And it's just with that said, I mean, with your comments are definitely landing well with our viewers. There's a few comments coming through. Well done, Carmen, dat jy bly glo en beklei het vir dit wat jy wou bereik. So yeah, that's awesome. Good to hear. And yeah, I mean, that just echoes what you were saying. I mean, it does say hard work, but besides winemaking and your other work is, and your other passion is the fact that you started a foundation feeding hungry kids. Where did it all start, and what drives that passion of yours?
Okay, so in 2011, I always thought, I have two girls, and I always thought, God, these children are so privileged, From where I came from, these kids never have to worry if they have something to eat. They never have to worry how they get to school, what they wear, do they have clothes? And I was in that position. My mother just could not afford half of the stuff. So being a factory worker, come Thursday night, we had maybe a sandwich, and then we wait until she paid the Friday and get food. So I always knew there's a need. There's a need for food for kids at school. So what I did was I started in 2011 by serving never less than 300, never more than 500 kids, a cup of soup 3 times a week at schools. And then one year, one of the people I'm selling my agencies, selling my wine to in the UK, they asked me about charities, and I told them about what I do, and they were very impressed and said, okay, Carmen, what we'll do is we'll give you a platform. The people that buys your wine, let's approach them and see if they don't want to chip in. And I thought, okay, if we raised 30 or 50,000 rand, then I can divide that money between the schools where I was providing the soup. But we raised 1.2 million rand in 10 hours. And suddenly I was like, oh my God, I can't just give this. My name is now connected to this. So I registered an NPO. I got a few of my friends that were school people or school teachers. And I said, I have this money. I want to feed as many kids as possible. I would like your input and for you to be part of this, but I'm not going to pay you because this money was raised to feed children. And everybody said yes. And so the first year with that money, we fed 3,060 learners a breakfast and a lunch, starting in the schools where we started with the soup program. And in 2000, it grew every year. In 2010, we fed 10,310 learners, 53 schools, 25 communities. With COVID, we had to change our direction and focus. When the president announced the lockdown, that the schools would close the Wednesday, I immediately thought, what about the kids? Where will they get the food? And I got somebody on board to pack over 6,500 high-energy cereal packs for me in 2 days that I distributed before the schools actually really closed. Wow. From there, we put hampers in the cellar. But the need just kept on growing and growing, and the kids were not at school. And then I said to our trustees, guys, we need to do something else. We need to approach community kitchens. So we recruited a few community kitchens. And it turned out to be 39 community kitchens in 33 communities. And up to today, we are providing through those community kitchens over 18,000 people a breakfast and a lunch. Wow. And I'm actually presenting my new, and I hate the word feeding, because feeding to me sounds like I'm feeding animals. So I don't call it a feeding plan. I call it a food plan. So on Friday, I'm presenting my food plan to the trustees for 2021. That will run until next year this time. And we actually hope our challenge is to go back into schools. At this point in time, I have 19,000 learners through schools that we will feed a breakfast and a lunch. Wow. Another almost 6,000 people that will feed through community kitchens because of the fact that schools are not at full capacity.
That's great. So, it's wonderful.
Wow.
Wonderful. And tell me, is there opportunity if there's viewers listening possible donors? Where do they find out more about your foundation? Can they get involved if they want to sponsor? Do you have a page? Can they contact you? How does this whole setup fit into the bigger picture?
Okay, so it's on my website. My website is www.carmenstevenswines.co.za. If you scroll down, you will see there is a tab for the NPO. Otherwise, you can just email us. The email address is on the website. We accept any donations. Any donations. Any donations that if it's a food donation, we will probably direct that food to a community kitchen. If it's money, we will direct that money towards schools, because we must stick to the national food program that the government sets out. So you're not allowed to give anything else than what government is giving at schools. And there is a list of approved brands that we can supply schools with. You cannot just go and say, I'm going to supply this and the other. You must stick to the approved list. And that list is there for traceability, to make sure that, nobody gets sick, that nobody gets something they're not supposed to get. And also, the menu that we provide is a very basic menu, but I promise you that menu, over the years that I've been doing this, I am astonished, is we have seen high enrollment in schools, in high schools. We have seen better results, better focus, less aggression. I had a little boy that said to me, I weighed 37 before I came onto this program. I weigh 45 now. You see, the impact of that basic food is so huge. It's so huge. Energy. You think that ear infections is just something. Ear infections, I believe, comes from not having proper food. We have seen the incidence or percentage of ear infections going down at schools where we feed. Girls that are struggling with menstrual pains, it's because of not having food. That has lessened. I have seen girls that say to me, because they are on this feeding program, they don't have to have a boyfriend. Let your mind go on that one. Okay.
That's amazing. I think that's exactly why your story. I mean, initially when we heard, we obviously saw your story online, is the fact that you're doing this great work, and you have a great journey in winemaking, and then also what you do as your other passion is what's exactly what we're about, is encouraging cultural recognition, and that's why we want to recognize you and your feat so far. So well done with that. And just with regards to your journey as winemaker, what's next for Carmen Stevens? What will we be seeing in the next 5 years' time, for example?
Okay, so my future, or my next 5 years seems so long, 2 year, 3 year plan, is I'm actually looking at acquiring a small farm. I don't want a big farm. I just need a few vines. I don't need thousands of hectares. A small farm and a cellar space. Let me put it to you this way, that the cellar that we have at the moment, all the equipment is mine. I can handle up to 200 tons, but the building is not mine. I'm still renting the building. So if I have my own farm, then I can put up my own cellar, which means that I have a home for my wines, which means that I can have people to come and taste my wines. And I'm also, I love cooking. So I can cook for people. Oh, there you go. I love cooking. And I can share with people not just my passion for winemaking, but my passion for food, my passion for people, and have our people come in and experience, what it is to be part of the wine world. Wine can be very intimidating.
As Kirsty Arendse wat ook hande klap daar, you are there you can see you're also inspiring a lot of people online. So keep them coming, guys. Carmen, you can continue. So your vision in the next few years is to acquire a small farm, get your wines produced in a building that you own. Before we wrap it up, we didn't ask you, waarvoor kyk mense uit op die rakke? Waar kry hulle die wyne? Wat is jou flagship wyn? As die deure weer oopmaak na lockdown, wil ons bietjie gaan loer, waar kry ons die wyntjies en hoe maak ons soos bietjie wil proe hoe Carmen se wyne proe? Daar's 'n logo, Carmen Stevens, maar dit lyk nie vir my, dit is sommer 'n tops en 'n chickens lieke storie die nie, né?
Nee. So, one of the big challenges that Black-owned brands have in South Africa is to actually get our product listed with the big retailers. It is like the most impossible task. So, at this point in time, my wines are mostly sold in Johannesburg through restaurants, or people buy directly from me. I do have an open door policy. People walk in.
And on that website that you've mentioned, do you have an online option for them to go and check and maybe order from you?
Absolutely. We run specials now because of, what we do now is we run a special now that will be delivered after lockdown. And since the alcohol sale ban, we've had so many, just sales to get us and keep us going. What's fortunate for us is that for specifically Carmen Stevens wines is that 80% of my product is sold in the UK and the USA. So, I'm not completely dependent on this market, but it would be great. It would be great for my people to have my wine on their table.
For sure. No, we said it.
I like I said earlier, maybe I didn't say this to you, but every winemaker thinks that their wines are the best. It's like your children. Okay. So, but I believe that my wines is the best. But that's true.
No, for sure. We can see by the many accolades. I'm pretty sure the wines are top class.
Thank you.
And just to wrap it up, I think one more question quickly is that your story is already inspiring to so many with regards to where your humble beginnings are and where you are today, for example. Any aspiring winemakers out there that didn't necessarily pick up a Mills and Boon's book to get the story, and to find that inspiration? What message do you have for them? In this time, for example, especially when we are facing a pandemic that's hopefully will be ending sometime soon. What message do you have for those that want to either follow a career in winemaking or in the wine industry?
Okay, so the first thing is that because the wine industry is majority white owned, okay, there is it's a white man's domain. Okay, so opportunity for people of color is great. They need more Black people. They need more Black stakeholders. So opportunity is there. There's a lot of bursaries. There might not always be a winemaker's job. You don't need to only go into winemaking. There's marketing. Wine marketing is a fantastic job. It takes you everywhere in the world. There's viticulture, the actual growing of the vine. There's soil science. There is so many different aspects of winemaking. Even the value chain of where you have packaging for wine, bottling of wine is there. You can go into any of those avenues. So if you take it as a collective and you say, is agriculture for me? Should I go into it? I would say, go for it. That's the first thing, because there's bursaries, there's opportunity, government is looking for you, the industry needs you. The other thing is, if you go into winemaking and viticulture, the world is your oyster. You can do a harvest here, January, February, March. From here, you can go to France. You can do a harvest there. From there, you can go to California. You can do 3 harvests in 1 year. And 3 harvests is 3 years experience. Okay, so you can see the world through making wine in different places. And you will be exposed to some of the best regions, wines, culture, food. It really is a door to the outside world. It's amazing. So if you want to do it, go for it. But
No,
work
for
for
sure.
it.
Awesome.
There you have it. There you have it. Inspirational words from a renowned winemaker, Carmen Stevens. And Carmen, I think, offline we spoke about when you wanted to hear more about what is it that we are doing. Why should you be on our show? We said we have a slogan of encouraging a culture of recognition, where we recognize those people out there making an immense impact that do not necessarily get the mileage and the recognition. And that is what Têkkel Talk Show is about, is to say thank you to people like you out there, quietly changing the circumstances of people. Back in the year where you were declined by many a university, you persevered to throw in that application a third time, to become a winemaker, to become that first graduate in an industry not renowned for people like us to obviously go into that industry. And then obviously started your business, very successful business, but then had the frame of mind to still start the foundation, feeding needy kids in schools and in communities. That for us is inspiring. And we wanted your story to inspire all the listeners out there. And if you look at the people's reaction on our social media feed, they again a real inspiration. Owen Wilson saying, and that is what you are. So from our side at the Têkkel Talk Show, thank you so much. Thank you so much for what you mean. Thank you so much for doing the hard yards, putting in the hard work to get to the top. Nothing comes easy. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to have this interaction and for sharing your expertise and experience with the Têkkel Talk Show community. From our side at the Têkkel Talk Show, where your business grow from where it is now, you will have hectares and hectares of your own land, and that is our wish. Your own cellar, making renowned, award-winning wines. En mag ons van Carmen Stevens wyne nie net in Suid-Afrika hoor nie, maar wanneer BBC Food daai lekker kosse maak, dat ons daar eendag sien, daar gooi hulle Carmen Stevens by Gavin Ramsay en wat is die chef se naam?
Gordon
Ramsay en dit ook nog, ja. So van ons kant af, Carmen, goed gaan, hou aan met die goeie werk en wees verseker, you are making a huge difference in the lives of people. Go well and make sure that you keep inspiring people out there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
Now, Beric, Carmen Stevens, award-winning winemaker on the Têkkel Talk Show. Guys, check this out. There's a repeat on this episode. If you've missed it now, ek sien Owen hulle het sommer hier laat ingekom. Owen Wilson het die agterkant van die show gekry. Check die beginnend, Owen. At Têkkel Talk Show op YouTube, op Facebook, op Twitter. Lekker sport hierdie naweek. Ongelukkig natuurlik geen voggies vir ons keel nie, maar wanneer dit weer trade is, gaan check uit Carmen se wonderlike wyne op hulle website. Dit gaan op ons Facebook page wees. Until next time, guys, Alberic and Carmen, mooi loop, stay safe, and we'll speak again.
Thank you.